I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A. David, what do we want to start with today?
Okay, this first one is from Follow Jesus 63, and it says, Mr. Jevning, I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
Is there any way to be able to defend against the ultrasound that the Bigfoot uses? And I'm pretty sure he means infrasound. Right.
Well, I don't know. Number one, we don't know for sure that they use infrasound. And secondly, I don't know that it has that big an impact to need defending from. What do you think, Forrest?
Well, that was my first thought, is that we have no conclusive indication that they do use infrasound. There's a lot of people that like to infer that they do that, and I'm not saying if they do or they don't. I don't know. So
yeah, we don't know.
We can't draw a conclusion off of nothing that we have any knowledge about.
Go ahead.
Gus. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, even if they did, would it be strong enough to even worry about?
Yeah, because, even though it's something you can't hear, it does affect you through your ears. So the only way I would know to defend against it would be to have, like, earbuds in, listening to music, but then you're screwed if something happens around you.
Well, that's when you keep your eyeballs open.
With a damn can of beans.
Yeah, there you go, see.
There you go. Don't put earbuds in.
Okay, what do we got next?
Okay, this next one is from VMR514. Says, hey guys, great show, a lot of excellent questions. I have one. How do you guys think the wildfires affect Bigfoot? Do you think they try to move to higher elevations or something else? Hope to hear the answer to my question. Thank you, guys.
Well, I think they take advantage of them, and I'll give you a reason why. I know a CAL FIRE captain, and actually he's retired now, who told me he and another CAL FIRE captain were having a discussion near a food drop, and they saw one of these things sneaking up on the food drop. So personally, I don't think they've been around fires for, as long as they've been around, as long as fires have been around. So I think they learn how to utilize, what the wildlife is doing. They're running crazy trying to get away from the fire and not as aware of predators. So these guys are pretty smart. I think they take advantage of it.
I agree with that.
On top of that, now I know of a recorded event down in Florida where they were having wildfires down there, and deer and rabbit and all those little small animals were running ahead of the fire, and there were actually vultures perched in the trees that were picking off these rabbits and small rodents that were coming out of the forest.
Right,
because
so birds...
They were coming out en masse, and so they were just sitting there waiting to pounce on them. So
if a bird can do that, he'd be smart enough to take advantage of it. Why wouldn't a large primate?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, good question.
All right. Next we have one from Dave Thundercloud. Says, do you believe a Sasquatch could inhabit 1,700 acres of streams and swampland surrounded by a small community or just pass through it?
Hi, Dave. We had Dave on the show a while back. We should have him on again. I would say, 1,700 acres. It sounds like a lot, but it's not a huge amount. Without knowing what part of the country, I wouldn't be able to say conclusively, but depending on the food supply, they don't want to drive all the food out, so they'd probably be just moving through it.
Yeah, I'd have to see how they're accessing the area, what's around, to see if it's someplace they could stay in but hide, or if it is someplace they would just have to pass through.
Yeah, on the West Coast, typically they're in an area a couple of weeks, and by that time, the game animals are catching on that there's something like that in the area, and they'll move out of the area. So these things will keep rotating their areas so that the game doesn't catch on to them. Okay, what do we got next?
All right, next we have Alabama Sisters Paranormal, and their question is, there seems to be more and more different types popping up. Could there be some genetic tampering, or are they all natural and have been here all along and just now surfacing?
They're natural.
That would be my answer.
Right.
Yeah, I
Forrest,
think
what do
so
you
too.
think? Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I think so too. When she says genetic tampering, I'm assuming that she's going to say government tampering, and I don't think that our government has progressed quite that far.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's natural.
And as far as just now surfacing, I mean, people have been seeing them for hundreds of years, but here lately, you hear about it more with all the TV shows and the radio shows and whatnot.
Well, and nobody was aware of it till Mr. Black told me, and I'm the one that released this about the different variants.
Right.
So we know about the different variants, but only because he came out with that information to me. Okay, what do we got up next?
All right, next we have Squatch545. It says, "Hi, William. I have a question that's always bothered me. There are numerous reports of Sasquatch ripping apart and dismembering deer, cattle, dogs, and other animals, yet many times the deer are simply left on the ground in this condition. Mm-hmm. Why do you think Sasquatch tear apart animals but don't eat them?"
They're making a statement. There's something they're ticked off about.
Being vindictive.
Being vindictive, it's probably a warning of some kind to people. What do you think, Forrest?
Well, tearing animals apart is very much a primate thing. You see that in chimpanzees. And chimpanzees way too often do something that we've heard has happened to people before, is rip open their guts and start eating the entrails and the organs. Now, I don't know. It seems to me that Bigfoot tends to have a vindictive nature, and I think I might, if they're just leaving them to let lie, I would say that I would probably tend to agree with you that it's something they're being vindictive about, something they're pissed off about, and it's trying to let somebody know, I don't like it, Well,
the one story that really sticks in my mind about that, and I've heard a number of them, is the one TW told us about the family, and they had the bull mastiff dog, and the dog ran out to the tree line barking, and apparently didn't realize till it was too late what it was barking at. And the Sasquatch came out, grabbed the dog, tore it in half, and threw both halves at the family. That's a pretty clear statement, I think, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, what's up next?
All right, next we have, let me see, I want to pronounce this right here. David Wirroch, 849. And he says, "One thing I keep hearing about is the fact that they don't or can't stand straight-legged. What is your take on that?"
They can't stand straight-legged.
Yeah.
The bent knee thing?
Yeah. What do you think, Forrest?
Well, I think that it all has to do with their anatomy. They walk in a very peculiar fashion. It's peculiar to us. It's not peculiar to them, so let me clarify that.
It's different than the way we walk.
Right.
Yes, that's why I say it's peculiar to us. It's not peculiar to them. If you watch Patty, she always, and I always refer to that because I think that's the clearest picture we have of one walking for any length of period of time. They clearly bend their knees. Their knees never lock. When we walk, we lock our knees. They do not lock the knees at all. And she has a peculiar motion that the knee she almost rotates the lower portion of her leg out from her knee, and then she pulls it across and steps directly in front of her foot. They walk in a completely straight line. And so there's got to be some sort of anatomical difference, and I don't say it may not doesn't have to be in the bones necessarily, but maybe in the muscle attachments in there for their knee area.
I
was
think
going
the
to
hip
ask.
structure.
I was going to
the
ask,
hip structure
Forrest.
is probably different.
Yeah. Forrest, do you think they might have too much cartilage in their knee right there to be able to bend it out straight? No,
I think it's just the way that they have developed, and it's something that they specifically they walk that way. I mean, it's just the way they have developed their knee structure, and of course, not ever seen a skeleton of one. I can't even really address that correctly, so I can only guess. But their fashion of walking is just. And if you watch Patty real closely, there's just an ever so slightly way of swinging her lower portion of her leg out, and it comes around and then is placed right directly in front of the other one.
Yeah, it's like it pivots.
Yeah, and well, sort of. And then their foot application is different from ours. So it's just it's a fashion of walking that they have developed through the eons of time that's actually more efficient. I know humans don't want to hear that, but it's more efficient than ours.
Well, I can tell you, one of my anthropology professors used to talk about that, about human walking. And he would often talk about in class about how poor our design is, like when we lock our knees from one step to the next.
Right.
He said the action is like pole vaulting. We're pole vaulting from one step to the next. And the way we're designed is why we have so many ankle, knee, hip, and lower back problems, because we're not fully designed for bipedal walking.
Well, boy, don't I know that. But,
yeah.
You know, and then too, when you notice when the human's walking, you have this kind of head bouncing motion. And I'm not saying not like a pogo, like we're on a pogo stick and really bouncing.
But we bob.
Watch it. We do, and we make a head bobbing motion. When we walk. I don't care.
And the Sasquatch doesn't.
Sasquatch does not do that. That's why you hear these people say, "Oh, they look like they were gliding." Well, yeah, they really do. They look kind of like a cross-country skier.
And if you look at these videos that are supposed to be real out there, that's your first clue. If you see these videos on YouTube or wherever, and the creature in the video is bobbing a little bit up and down, it's a fake.
Yeah.
That's somebody in a suit. Okay, where are we at next?
All right, this next one is from B-Boy Dig Girl, number 1. Hi, Will. I just discovered your video channel. I'm currently reading Notes from the Field. I was curious of your opinion on Tom Lyon's books. I've read them, but his writing tends to meander, and I can't decide if he's being serious or not.
You know, I'm not familiar with that person.
I'd have
to take a look and get back with you on that, because you know, to be honest, I don't keep up with a lot of these people. So you kind of have to go with your gut feeling, I guess, when you're reading something. You know, if it's not straightforward or meandering, either the person's not a good writer. I don't know. That's up to personal opinion, really.
Yeah.
You
ever heard of him before?
What was the name? Tom Lyons?
Yeah.
Like Lyons?
Uh-huh.
I have never heard of the... I was like going, I know a John Lyons. He's a horse trainer, and but no Tom Lyons. I don't think John's writing any books about Bigfoot. But you know, I'll tell you, and I think Will agree with me here. You know, when I come to conclusions about Bigfoot, I don't spend a whole lot of time about reading other people's books and such as that. I watch a lot of primate footage. I watch a lot of, and there's a lot of stuff out there. And I encourage people, inform yourself. Don't take my word. Don't take Will's word. Don't take anybody's word. You go out there and you inform yourself. And you can watch these videos, and I'm talking about reliable ones. I'm not talking about some of these things that some of these idiot VOs make over in Asia and stuff when they're filming these poor macaques and some of these monkeys out in East Asia and such. but actually scientists and primatologists and anthropologists that are out there in the field that are studying these animals. And it's amazing what kind of knowledge you can garner by watching that, and then you can apply it to what you've heard or know yourself personally about Bigfoot. And also watch podcasts, videos, whatever, on archaic man. And you'll just be amazed at what all of a sudden you become enlightened. You go,
right.
Oh my goodness, what I can learn,
Well, I just looked up the guy, and it looks like his book is just a collection of stories from people that have told him. So I don't know. I mean, the guy's from Wisconsin, doesn't really say a whole bunch.
So what's the name of his book?
Let me go back here. Bigfoot Frightening Encounters. Never heard of it.
I'm going to say this, and I may be totally off base, but he might be a guy that I actually heard one time on Coast to Coast.
Oh, could
and
be,
that's
sure.
All, and that's all he does is he just takes collections of stories. He's not trying to make any particular statement about, and I'm not saying that's the guy. I'm just saying he might be the one that I listened to one night, and he just tells exactly what it is, frightening encounters that people have told him, whether they're true or not. He records them and puts them into short stories, and he doesn't change them in any fashion. He just tells them the way people tell them, and he's put them in that book.
There's actually a lot of people out there like that. It's why the subject is flooded with books, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did with Witness of the Unknown volumes 1 and 2. And actually, I'm getting ready to do a third volume of that, stuff people send me. And, where they won't come on the show or anything, but they don't mind having their stories out. So I put them in book form.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people like to hear those stories and such. And a lot of people just don't like to talk on the radio or talk on TV or whatever,
Yeah,
and I mean,
true.
that guy that I told you all about, Base Camp Chris, I mean, I guess I'm giving him a plug by saying that, but I enjoy listening to him. And Fred does the same thing.
Fred does, yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, how else are we going to hear those stories unless somebody tells somebody and he has to repeat it. But they're also, I have to give them credit for the fact that they're very careful. They record the stories, and then they literally repeat the stories verbatim. They don't, Fred doesn't elaborate on them, and he doesn't, come to any conclusions or anything like that. And neither does the other guy. So, I mean, you got to give them credit when credit's due.
So back to that question, I guess it's going to be up to your own choices, if you want to choose to believe what he's saying or not. But that's the best we can do on that.
Yeah.
What do we get next, David?
All right, this next one follows up good with that last one. This one is from UJE491. It says, I love your books, Will. Any suggestions of more books I should read? I'm from Sweden and got a perhaps unhealthy interest in the Bigfoot phenomenon.
I always tell people to go back to some of the old stuff. Like pick up a copy of Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman Legend Come to Life. Go get John Green's books. Those are all great books. Some of the newer ones I'm not so sure about, but them older ones, absolutely.
And then yours, of course.
Okay, what do we got next?
Let's see. Okay, this next one is from Vin Skeeter. It says, do you have a theory on why they are able to avoid being seen on trail cams? It's hard for me to accept that they know it's a camera, what it does, and then avoid being in the camera's field of view.
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Do you have a theory on why they are able to avoid being seen on trail cams? It's hard for me to accept that they know it's a camera, what it does, and then avoid being in the camera's field of view.
Well, there's two things. Number one, they don't have to know it's a camera. it's a man-made object. Chimps and other higher primates will go out of their way to especially avoid human-made objects in their living area. And these guys are going to be just the same way. If it's something out there in their backyard, they're going to avoid it because they don't trust those things. If they can see IR, trail cams use infrared in their focusing mechanism. So if they can see that, that's another reason to avoid it.
And then you have the fact that they will probably notice and see the people in their area putting these things up, and then they know to avoid that area altogether because people have been there doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now there have been some cases where, and I think you'll even concede this, Will, that there have been some picked up on game cameras that I think are probably legitimate Bigfoot. I don't think, you were correct in saying what you did about the great apes, because they have tried putting out game cameras and such to record game trails and see where their movements and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes they get caught, but most of the time they avoid them. And I don't know whether it's the smell, the sound, the lights, or what, but your great apes will avoid them. And but every once in a while they get caught, just like I think Bigfoot. I mean, let's face it, even people get caught on them sometimes, and then kind of look up and like, oh shit, we're on somebody's game camera.
Right. And here's another one too. How do you know where people are putting game cameras is where Bigfoot is?
Well,
nobody ever asked that question. Maybe they're not putting them out where these things are. They might think they are, but the creatures may not be there.
Yep. Good point.
Okay, what do we got next?
All right, next we have John Boat Wright 7777, and he says, I have been trying to reach you about a clan in southwest Arkansas.
Okay, what was that again? I'm sorry. I was getting this stuff on my phone here at the same time. Sorry about that.
He says, I've been trying to reach you about a clan in southwest Arkansas.
Okay.
I want to give him your contact info.
Yeah, just get a hold of me at either email. That's wjevning@gmail.com or williamjevning@yahoo.com.
So John Boatwright 7777. There you go. Shoot Will an email and he'll get back to you. We got time for a couple more?
Yes, we do.
Okay, this one is from Twinkles the Chinchilla. And it says, a thought just crossed my mind that really sticks in my craw. Should these things ever be formally recognized by science, I have my doubts that these old-timers will get the respect they're due from academia. Perhaps I'm wrong, but the thought still irks me.
Well, I can tell you, I agree, because people like John Green and Renee DeHinden, people wouldn't know about this topic if it wasn't for those two men specifically.
Right.
And Bob Titmus and some of the others. I mean, that's a small group. I'd say those three individuals for sure. Some of the other people are questionable in my opinion, but those three absolutely.
Like what's his name? Tom. What was that guy's name?
Are we talking about Standing?
No.
No.
That's Todd Standing. He's an idiot. I'm thinking about Tom. I think he began with an S though. I'll think of it later. I can't remember right now. But anyway, we can move on.
Of course, Al Hodgson and some of the people like that. But those people should definitely be given recognition. They deserved it.
Right.
Well, and then, what I keep thinking, I had a thought that just came into the back of my mind, Will, is, and you remember when you contacted me one day when I think you were, sitting at lunch, you were watching a video, and it was just like 3 or 4 weeks after what I had brought up about Bigfoot having big butts.
Oh, right.
Y'all teased me unmercifully about that, but I told you over and over and over, if they didn't have big butts, they wouldn't be able to walk the way they do. So, and then what did you do? You texted me and
somebody was trying to take your thunder.
And somebody was trying to steal my thunder, and of course he's got a PhD behind him. And I have the utmost respect for that individual, but I thought maybe, just maybe, he could have maybe given somebody else credit. But anyway.
Well, yeah, if you're going to come up with something, give the person recognition where it's due.
Yeah, Forrest noticed that big old butt first, so, you know.
Because that's right. He would never notice that. I mean, maybe he looks at big butts, I don't know, but he didn't mention it before you did.
Oh, heavens.
Okay, we got time for another one.
Okay, this one is from Chris Wandale, 3570. It says, here's a question. You say that Bigfoot attack people, yet there are many times where witnesses are alone and have been unmolested by these creatures. What likely triggers the attacks? I mean, we're very easy to catch compared to a deer, so why would a group attack one person but leave others alone in the same area? What factors do you think increase the likelihood of an attack, and what factors may discourage it?
Okay, first of all, it's not an either or. Some do, some don't. If one group is doing it, they would probably continue to do it in a place. It wouldn't be, one group decides, well, this person we're going to eat, that person we're going to leave alone. And that's not how we see it in the field. We see it in places like in Southern Oregon that we worked. Those creatures are pretty consistent in their behavior. Same with other places. If they're not aggressive, then they're going to maintain that non-aggressive behavior. So as to what triggers it, well, if they're going to attack people to eat them, then that's the motivation.
Then it's going to continue.
Humans an easy target if they're prone to doing that, and it's not everywhere. You got to remember this. Behaviors aren't cookie cutter.
Right.
Well, it's just like you've got what you refer to as man-eating lions, man-eating tigers, man-eating grizzly bears, and there have even been some man-eating black bears. I mean, the standard behavior is usually they run. They turn and run. I mean, that's most generally the standard behavior of those predators when they see man. But there always are that one or two that are going to, get it in their head that, I can carry out this attack. And all it takes is one successful attack. Mm-hmm. And then they realize that, these guys can't run as fast as a deer. Yes, they can't run as fast as anything else. And they can't shimmy up a tree because I can go right up the tree behind them. And, unless you're carrying a gun or a weapon to defend yourself, you're kind of fair game. And oftentimes, even if you've got a gun, you're fair game anyway. So,
right.
It happens. And I think it's a learned predator behavior.
It is, yeah. And I think it's the same way with these guys. It's kind of like I go back to the example of you watch on TV what they're talking about serial killers, how serial killers develop. And as they grow up, those people, it's a trial and error behavior. What they find successful, that's what they continue doing and developing. The Sasquatch is going to be the same way, and I think those other predatory animals are the same way. If they lean in that direction, they start becoming successful with certain behaviors that work. They continue that, and then eventually that's what they develop into.
Yeah, I can't think of. I know of places where people have been attacked, and if anybody else goes into that area, they're attacked too. I've never heard of a Sasquatch attacking somebody in an area but not attacking somebody else that went in the same area.
Now, I know, like the area we worked, Southern Oregon, I think they didn't attack us probably because of the size of the group of people, the fact that we stayed close together, and the fact that we were armed.
Yeah.
I think all of those things, and we weren't in their areas during their feeding times.
Right.
And wasn't that the same area that you found that skeletal remains that you sent me the pictures of?
It was, yes. Oh, no, yeah, it was the same area.
And he was out there by himself, and that's one you have reiterated over and over and over. People, if you're going to go out in the woods, take somebody with you. Don't
never
go by
alone.
Yourself.
Right?
Don't
Never, ever go alone. Look at the history of the area.
Well, and that's
see that.
That's just good advice, even outside
Yeah.
of Bigfoot. I mean,
Or
irregardless
any.
of Bigfoot, you shouldn't be out there by yourself,
It's not safe. I mean, if something happens to you, you fall down, you break a leg or something. What if with especially like this time of year when there's heat, there's all kinds of things that can happen where you could die out there. Just by very small things can happen.
Just play it safe, folks.
That's it. Well, guys, we are out of time. We'll get to more questions next week. So thanks for stopping by with us, and join us next week. Keep sending the questions in.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open.